All right, let's get cooking. Welcome to the latest edition of Chin Check Sports Radio. I'm your host, JD. I want to thank you all for taking the time out to join us. And as always, we welcome any suggestions, feedback, comments, and criticisms, which improves the quality of our program, which ultimately improves your listening experience. Before we get started, I want to tell all of you thank you for your tremendous support. People are slowly but surely finding out about who we are and what we do. They enjoy and respect the passion with which we speak. But as we always say here at Chin Check Sports Radio, we do this because we love it, as we are simply sharing our passions with you all as we continue to build our listening army to take over the world. Yeah, it's definitely been a minute that we haven't been doing our thing. It's been a minute that we haven't been cooking. I hope for you all it felt like it's been a longer time. People have been reaching out to us saying, Chin Check, where have you been hiding? We are here to do our preview of the fight between Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia that is scheduled for April 20th. And we're going to say, in terms of big fight, it's not a big championship level fight. It's not necessarily a must-see fight that maybe the casual sports fans want to see. It should be a fight between two named fighters, one fighter who actually has more ring accomplishments, better ring accomplishments, and more ring accolades versus another fighter who is basically a glorified social media star. So we'll just jump right into the tail of the tape. Devin the Dream Haney, age 25 years old, 31 total fights, 31 wins, no losses, 15 wins by knockout. He is undefeated. Some notable fights in his career: November of 2020, a unanimous decision against journeyman Yuriorkis Gamboa, who seems to be the gatekeeper for a lot of up-and-coming fighters. May of 2021, unanimous decision over Jorge Linares. The fight that really captured my attention or drew my attention to this young man, June of 2022, unanimous decision against George Kambosos Jr., at the time the undisputed lightweight champion of the world. Now, what was significant about that fight is this kid, Devin Haney, who was an up-and-coming contender, traveled to Australia, the homeland of a George Kambosos. And we did our previews and our reviews for that fight. Now, what was interesting is that Haney beat Kambosos in his homeland, and the same Kambosos who had beaten Teofimo Lopez, who had beaten Vasily Lomachenko for the lightweight title. So that was a shocker. We definitely wasn't expecting that, and quite frankly, wasn't really expecting the ease in which Devin Haney won that fight. Devin Haney pretty much won every round of that fight in dominant fashion. The rematch was set for October of 2022. Go back and listen to the broadcast of the review that we did of that fight. Another classical masterpiece, again, in Australia. So Devin Haney traveled to Australia, beat the champion in his home country, and then traveled again to Australia to defend his title against the same guy and pitched shutouts. Not once, but twice. Right there, we knew that this kid was nothing to play with, and at the time, he was only 22, 23 years old. Young man with that kind of accomplishment, being the lightweight champion of the world. And it's around the same time that you have the Lomachenkos and the Teofimo Lopez, who had 1 foot out and 1 foot in the ring. Gervonta Tank Davis, we've done a bunch of his fights. So this kid really caught our attention by beating the Kambosos, who beat Teofimo Lopez, who beat Lomachenko. Which brings us to our next fight, May of 2023, a unanimous decision that we broke down in our review of the Lomachenko and the Haney fight, that Haney clearly won that fight. It wasn't close. A clear decision. Of course, we had our issues with the backlash that Haney received. We didn't agree with that. For sanctioning bodies to make comments, we didn't agree with that. We thought he should have stayed out of it. This is what the judges make decisions for. And we thought Haney didn't fight his best fight, but he did enough to win. And it was not a robbery. It wasn't, he stole his titles. No, he clearly won that fight against Vasily Lomachenko. December of 2023, and we never got a chance to do a review of this fight versus Reggie Pro-Race, moving up to super lightweight, or the 140-pound or junior welterweight championship. And again, Haney pitched a masterpiece, knocking this guy down. Again, moving up in weight, the question is, you're fighting bigger fighters. Does the power still work his way up, even though Haney is not really known as a power puncher, but to score a knockdown against a bigger fighter, we definitely gave him credit. And again, another masterful shutout performance by one Devin Haney. Moving on to Ryan King Garcia. Another one, age 25 years old, 25 total fights, 24 wins, 1 loss, 20 big wins by knockout. Let's jump into some fights here. January of 2021, TKO against Luke Campbell. Now, he clearly won the fight. He knocked the guy out. Problem was he was knocked down in that fight against a lesser fighter. And that right there pretty much turned people to say, what would he do when he stepped up in competition? And his biggest fight, April of last year, that we pretty much predicted what was going to happen. April of 2023, a TKO loss in the 7th round against Gervonta Tank Davis. Again, go back and listen to the preview of that. We stated that Ryan Garcia is going to come out aggressive instead of just boxing and keeping Tank at bay. He wanted to become aggressive and got caught and paid for it. And Gervonta Tank Davis, who we feel has very underrated boxing IQ, picked this guy apart and knocked him out with a body shot. Now, some people will attribute that to the weight clause that was in the contract where you couldn't come in at a higher weight. So some people felt that tilted the advantage in the favor of a Gervonta Tank Davis. Hey, but it is what it is. He signed the fight. So that's just, so you have to roll with the punches. Now, previewing this fight, we think that Devin Haney is going to whip his ass. Like, we don't even think the fight's going to be close. We're talking 10 rounds to 2, 11 rounds to 1, at best 8 rounds to 4 for Devin Haney. Fight's not going to be close. Expect a dominant performance. Definitely could see a knockdown here and there. Ryan Garcia still has a lot of technical flaws. Of course, they can be worked on, but he kind of is who he is. He's a naturally aggressive fighter, which works to his detriment. He backs straight up with his head. He doesn't move his head in the swivel. And some of the fights that we've seen, he has very fast hands, very quick hands. Again, that's why I say he's a social media star, because that pretty much gave him a lot of his fame by doing this stuff on social media. So it seemed that he liked boxing rather than being a boxer. And we stated that before. And his fast hands couldn't do anything against the Gervonta Tank Davis, who take away his punching power. Gervonta Tank Davis can box. He has high ring IQ. Devin Haney, we think, is a slightly better boxer than Gervonta Tank Davis. But of course, Davis has that put you to sleep knockout power. Haney is more of a boxer, a thudder. And we think that Haney is going to whip this guy's ass. It won't even be close. He's going to take him to school. The only thing that Ryan Garcia is bringing is fast hands, and that is it. But Haney is a boxer. Again, better competition, beating Kambosos, beating Lomachenko, better competition, and won those fights pretty clearly. When Ryan Garcia stepped up the competition that was equal or better than him, he was knocked out in 7 rounds, and quite frankly, the fight was not close even after the first round. But here's the issue that we had. There was a video, and go back and look at this, where right around the time the announcement was made or there was talks of the fight, there was a confrontation between Devin Haney, his father Bill Haney, and Ryan Garcia. And of course, like fighters do, they trash talk and they get into each other's heads and quote, to hype and sell the fight. But most fight fans, we know these guys, and we really don't need them to be fighting at press conferences and going back and forth and having scrums inside arenas and back hallways to promote the fight. These are well-known fighters, and these are fights that we want to see. So clearly there was a confrontation between all three. Now, the problem that I had, when Ryan Garcia was getting into it with Bill Haney and Devin Haney, of course, Ryan Garcia had his big brother that was security. He clearly instigated this fight. And the problem that we had was Ryan Garcia, who instigated this fight, walked away unscathed. You know the people who continue to get into the fight? Black folks. And it irritated the hell out of us because black people, we were quick to tear each other limb from limb over a fight that this other guy, who is a non-black person, started a fight and walked away unscathed. And you have security, he's getting into it with Devin Haney and Bill Haney's people. They're fighting and they're literally about to shred each other up, and Ryan Garcia is walking away scot-free. Black people, when are we gonna do better? When are we gonna learn? Go look at that video. That was repulsive, to say the least. We understand that, again, you have to hype a fight up, that's fine. But the fact that this person started this fight and black folks are going to finish the fight and they damn near was ready to kill one another while the person, the antagonist, walked away, who was a non-black person, and they're ready to kill each other. That was disgusting, and why nobody else called this out, I don't know, but this is what we do here at Chin Check Sports Radio. Now, going forward, after Devin Haney whips his ass, of course, you want to see the Devin Haneys versus the Tank Davis and maybe the Shakur Stevensons. Of course, that's boxing Twitter talk, but we'll see what happens. So this is a decent fight. We're deciding whether we're going to throw food on the grill or just go to a sports bar. We're still deciding that. But the boxing, we're scheduled for a couple of fights coming up. You got Alexander Usyk versus Tyson Fury. That's going to be in May. Artur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol. That's supposed to be scheduled for June. So there's a couple fights on the horizon as we are in this springtime going into the summer. So really the first big fight of 2023. We had a couple of shockers last week, or Friday rather, with Sebastian Fundora beating Tim Tszyu, the son of Hall of Famer Kostya Tszyu, which now has thrown a lot of things out of whack. So remember, he was supposed to fight one of the Charlo brothers who got hurt. He was supposed to fight Keith Thurman, and he pulled out, and Fundora stepped in on 11 days' notice, and he beat him by split decision. Now, of course, you have back and forth now. You have Bud Crawford wanting to fight Fundora. You had Errol Spence Jr. crash in the ring. But, of course, since Bud Crawford dominated Errol Spence, that means Bud Crawford should be first line to fight Fundora, and Spence fights Tim Tszyu. So we'll see what happens, but definitely excited for this fight. And until the next time, it's Chin Check Radio. Signing out.